When we talk about the psychological differences between men and women, it is important to begin with one clear understanding. No two individuals are exactly the same. Every person is shaped by personality, upbringing, culture, experiences, and environment. However, research in psychology over decades has observed certain patterns that tend to appear more frequently in men and in women. These differences do not mean one gender is better than the other. They simply reflect different ways of thinking, feeling, communicating, and responding to the world. Understanding these differences can help improve relationships, reduce misunderstandings, and build stronger emotional connections between people. One of the most discussed differences is emotional expression. On average, women are often more comfortable expressing their emotions openly. They may talk about their feelings in detail and seek emotional support during stressful situations. This does not mean men do not feel emotions deeply. In fact, research shows men experience emotions just as strongly. However, many men are socialized from a young age to suppress or control emotional expression, especially emotions like sadness or fear. As a result, men may show emotions in different ways, sometimes through actions rather than words. They may focus on solving a problem instead of discussing how they feel about it. This difference can create misunderstandings in relationships, where one partner seeks empathy and conversation while the other focuses on solutions and practical steps. Communication style is another area where differences often appear. Women generally tend to use communication as a tool for connection. They may share stories, discuss personal experiences, and engage in conversations that build emotional closeness. For many women, talking is a way of bonding. Men, on the other hand, are more likely to use communication to exchange information, assert status, or accomplish a goal. Conversations among men may revolve around activities, achievements, or shared interests rather than deep emotional sharing. This difference sometimes leads to frustration when one partner expects emotional depth and the other believes the conversation has already served its purpose. Stress responses also show noticeable variations. When faced with stress, many men adopt what psychologists call a fight or flight response. They may withdraw, become quiet, focus intensely on a task, or try to fix the issue independently. Women, in contrast, are more likely to show what researchers describe as a tend and befriend response. They may seek social support, talk about their problems, and strengthen social bonds during difficult times. This difference is not absolute, but it is common enough to influence how couples handle conflict or hardship. When a man withdraws during stress, it may not mean he does not care. He may simply be processing internally. When a woman wants to talk immediately about a problem, it may not mean she is overreacting. She may be regulating stress through connection. There are also differences in how men and women process emotions and memory. Studies suggest that women often have stronger emotional memory, meaning they may recall events with more emotional detail. They might remember how something felt and the emotional tone of an interaction long after it happened. Men may remember the general facts but might not attach as much emotional detail to the memory. This can sometimes lead to disagreements where one partner feels something deeply affected them while the other views it as a minor event. Both perspectives are valid. They are simply filtered through different emotional processing styles. Another area of difference is empathy and social awareness. On average, women score slightly higher on measures of empathy, particularly emotional empathy, which is the ability to feel what another person is feeling. This can make women more sensitive to subtle emotional cues like tone of voice or facial expressions. Men may show more cognitive empathy, which is understanding what someone feels without necessarily experiencing the emotion themselves. These tendencies can influence how conflicts are handled. Women may focus more on emotional impact, while men may focus more on logical fairness or practical outcomes. Risk-taking behavior also differs in noticeable ways. Research consistently shows that men, on average, are more likely to engage in physical and financial risk-taking. This may have evolutionary roots linked to competition and status-seeking behaviors. Women generally tend to be more cautious in high-risk situations, particularly those involving physical danger. However, women may take more social or emotional risks, such as initiating important conversations or addressing relationship issues directly. These differences can affect career choices, financial decisions, and even daily habits. Problem-solving approaches often vary as well. Men may prefer to tackle issues independently and may feel a sense of pride in solving problems without assistance. Women may be more comfortable collaborating, discussing options, and seeking advice before making a decision. This does not indicate weakness or strength in either direction. It reflects different coping strategies. In relationships, this can lead to misunderstandings when one partner offers help that the other did not request, or when one expects collaboration while the other prefers independence. In romantic relationships, attachment styles and expectations can also show subtle differences. Women may prioritize emotional intimacy and verbal reassurance more strongly, while men may express love through actions, protection, or providing support. A man may believe that working hard and solving practical problems is a way of showing love, while a woman may interpret love through consistent emotional communication and shared vulnerability. When these expressions of love are not recognized by the other partner, feelings of neglect or misunderstanding can arise. Biology also plays a role in shaping psychological tendencies. Hormones like testosterone and estrogen influence mood, aggression, nurturing behavior, and stress responses. Brain imaging studies have shown some structural and connectivity differences in male and female brains, particularly in areas related to language processing and spatial reasoning. However, it is essential to understand that these differences exist on a spectrum. There is significant overlap between men and women, and individual personality differences are often much larger than gender-based averages. Cultural expectations further amplify psychological differences. From a young age, boys are often encouraged to be strong, independent, and competitive, while girls are encouraged to be caring, cooperative, and emotionally expressive. These social messages shape behavior over time. When a boy is told not to cry, he may learn to hide vulnerability. When a girl is praised for being gentle and supportive, she may develop stronger relational skills. Many of the differences we see in adulthood are influenced by years of social conditioning rather than biology alone. It is also important to recognize that these psychological differences can complement each other. In teamwork, one person's analytical and goal-focused mindset can balance another's emotional insight and relational awareness. In parenting, a combination of structure and emotional warmth can provide a balanced environment for children. In friendships and partnerships, different perspectives can lead to richer conversations and stronger problem-solving. However, problems arise when differences are misunderstood or judged. If emotional expression is labeled as weakness, or if logical problem-solving is labeled as coldness, resentment can build. The key to healthy interaction between men and women is awareness and respect. Instead of expecting the other person to think and react exactly the same way, recognizing natural tendencies can create patience and empathy. Ultimately, psychological differences between men and women are patterns, not rules. There are many men who are highly expressive and emotionally intuitive, and many women who are analytical and risk-taking. Personality, life experience, and individual temperament play powerful roles. The goal of understanding these differences is not to create division, but to improve communication and harmony. When we appreciate that different does not mean wrong, we create space for deeper understanding and stronger relationships. By learning how each gender tends to think, feel, and respond, we can reduce conflict, strengthen emotional bonds, and build connections that are based on respect rather than assumptions. Another important psychological difference often seen between men and women lies in how they experience identity and self-worth. For many men, self-esteem is strongly connected to achievement, competence, and success. They may measure their value by how well they perform in their careers, how financially stable they are, or how effectively they can solve problems. When they face failure in these areas, it can deeply affect their confidence and emotional state, even if they do not openly express it. Women, on the other hand, often connect self-worth more closely to relationships, emotional bonds, and how valued they feel by the people around them. Conflict in close relationships may impact a woman's emotional well-being more intensely because connection and belonging are central to her sense of identity. These are general patterns, of course, but they help explain why career setbacks may hit men particularly hard, while relationship struggles may weigh more heavily on women. There are also differences in how men and women approach conflict. Many men prefer to reduce tension quickly and may avoid long emotional discussions. Silence, distraction, or physical space can be ways they regulate intense feelings. Women are often more inclined to address the conflict directly and talk through every detail to reach emotional resolution. When one partner wants space and the other wants immediate conversation, it can create friction. The man may feel pressured or overwhelmed, while the woman may feel ignored or dismissed. Understanding that these reactions are often coping strategies rather than signs of indifference can transform how couples handle disagreements. Another fascinating area is multitasking and focus. Research suggests that women may be more comfortable switching between tasks and managing multiple responsibilities at once, especially when those tasks involve social or emotional elements. Men often prefer to focus deeply on one task at a time and may become frustrated when interrupted. This difference can show up in daily life, whether in the workplace or at home. A woman may feel comfortable talking while doing another activity, while a man may need to pause his task to fully engage in conversation. Neither approach is superior. They simply reflect different cognitive tendencies. When it comes to friendship dynamics, differences also appear. Male friendships are often activity-based. Men may bond over sports, work, hobbies, or shared experiences rather than through deep emotional conversation. Long periods without communication do not necessarily weaken male friendships. Women's friendships, in contrast, are often built on regular communication, emotional sharing, and mutual support. A lack of contact may feel like distance or disconnection. These patterns explain why men may say they have close friends even if they rarely discuss personal feelings, while women may measure closeness by how openly they share emotions. In decision-making, men are sometimes more likely to rely on quick judgments and take decisive action, especially in competitive situations. Women may spend more time evaluating options, considering emotional impact, and thinking about how a decision affects others. This thorough evaluation can sometimes be misinterpreted as hesitation, but in many cases it reflects a broader perspective. On the other hand, rapid decision-making can be mistaken for impulsiveness when it may actually stem from confidence and a goal-oriented mindset. Both approaches have strengths depending on the situation. Jealousy and emotional security can also differ in subtle ways. Studies suggest that men may react more strongly to physical infidelity, while women may react more strongly to emotional infidelity. This difference may be influenced by both evolutionary psychology and emotional bonding patterns. For women, emotional closeness often represents commitment and security. For men, physical exclusivity may symbolize loyalty and trust. These tendencies can shape how each gender interprets betrayal and relationship boundaries. There are also psychological differences in how praise and criticism are received. Men may respond strongly to respect and acknowledgement of competence. Feeling admired or appreciated for their abilities can deeply motivate them. Women may respond strongly to appreciation of effort, emotional presence, and care. Criticism directed at personal connection or emotional support may feel especially painful. Recognizing what makes each partner feel valued can dramatically improve communication and emotional satisfaction. Another powerful factor is vulnerability. While both men and women experience fear, insecurity, and doubt, societal expectations often make vulnerability more acceptable for women. Men may struggle internally with stress or sadness but hesitate to share it, fearing judgment or appearing weak. This emotional isolation can increase pressure and misunderstanding in relationships. When men feel safe enough to express vulnerability, and when women understand that silence may mask deeper emotions, emotional intimacy can grow significantly. Over time, many of these psychological differences begin to soften. As societies evolve and gender roles become more flexible, men are increasingly encouraged to express emotions, and women are encouraged to pursue ambition and independence. The gap between traditional psychological patterns is narrowing, especially among younger generations. This shows that while biology plays a role, culture and social learning are extremely powerful in shaping behavior. It is also essential to remember that focusing only on differences can sometimes create division. There are far more similarities between men and women than differences. Both desire respect, love, understanding, and security. Both experience fear, hope, joy, and disappointment. Both seek meaning and connection. The differences we observe are often complementary rather than conflicting. When viewed with maturity and empathy, they can strengthen relationships instead of weakening them. In the end, understanding psychological differences between men and women is not about creating stereotypes or rigid categories. It is about awareness. When we understand that someone may respond differently to stress, communication, or conflict because of natural tendencies, we become more patient. We stop assuming negative intentions and start asking better questions. We learn to adapt rather than criticize. The psychological differences between men and women are not about superiority or limitation, but about diversity in thinking, feeling, and responding to life. While research shows certain patterns in emotional expression, communication styles, stress responses, decision-making, and relationship expectations, these patterns are tendencies rather than fixed rules. Every individual carries a unique personality shaped by biology, upbringing, culture, and personal experience. The real purpose of understanding these differences is not to create labels, but to reduce misunderstanding and build stronger connections. When we recognize that men may process emotions internally while women may express them outwardly, we begin to interpret behavior with more empathy. When we understand that one partner may seek solutions while the other seeks emotional reassurance, conflict becomes easier to manage. Instead of assuming someone does not care, we learn to see that they may simply be caring in a different way. Awareness replaces blame, and patience replaces frustration. This shift alone can transform relationships, whether romantic, professional, or familial. It is also important to remember that society plays a major role in shaping these psychological differences. As gender roles evolve, many traditional patterns are changing. Men are becoming more emotionally expressive, and women are increasingly assertive and independent. The boundaries that once defined masculine and feminine psychology are becoming more flexible. This evolution shows that while some differences may have biological roots, human behavior is highly adaptable. Growth happens when individuals feel free to express both strength and vulnerability without judgment. At the core, men and women share the same fundamental emotional needs: to feel valued, respected, understood, and loved. The differences lie mainly in how those needs are expressed and fulfilled. When we approach each other with curiosity instead of criticism, we create space for deeper emotional intimacy. When we listen not just to respond but to understand, communication becomes more meaningful. Relationships thrive not when two people think the same way, but when they learn to appreciate and balance each other's perspectives. Ultimately, understanding psychological differences is about building harmony. It encourages compassion, strengthens emotional intelligence, and promotes healthier interactions. Rather than focusing on what separates men and women, the true lesson lies in recognizing how these differences can complement one another. When respect, empathy, and open communication are present, differences become strengths. And through that understanding, stronger, more fulfilling connections can be created in every area of life.